Hello everybody, I'm Derek Schneider, president of the History Makers Academy and founder of History Makers Society. I'm coming from Toronto, Canada. However, I am here in Ukraine at the moment, leaving today, boarding a plane to go back. I was supposed to be with you at this conference and am unable to because of prior engagement already booked. But Louis spoke with me, and why not come to you by video? So I want to extend my special congratulations to those of you, especially the leadership of the Insight Conference. I especially love the theme, Answers to Life's Most Difficult Questions. So congratulations to you on the successful conference, giving greetings to all the speakers. Especially I'd like to greet the Nation Radiance International, as well as the Nigerian Students Association. It is my privilege and honor to speak to you today. I want to talk to you for about the next 30 minutes on the topic of how to add value to any sphere of life. How to add value to any sphere of life. You know, there are certain laws and principles that underline every sphere of life, even spiritually. There are laws and principles that, if properly adhered to, you can actually predict certain results. I want to give you a couple laws today, a couple principles on how you yourself can add value to any sphere, whether it be family, whether it be your career, whether it be your nation even. How to add value. When somebody is a person that adds value to those around them, their own personal value goes up. A person of value is respected by society, and doors will open for them. Promotions will come to them. People of value are those that leave a legacy. That's why I encourage leaders today to not so much strive for success, but strive to be a person of value. Those kind of people leave a legacy that goes on long after they're gone. They're not just successful people, but they're people of significance. So what's our first principle this morning on how to become a person of value, how to add value to any sphere, Number one, you've got to become a person of value yourself. You cannot give away what you don't have. You cannot do in others what you don't do yourself. You've got to become a person of value. This should really be the foremost goal of any human being, to never cease being a student and always be adding value to yourself. When you do that, you will be a constant problem solver, somebody sought out for answers. You'll be able to attract the right relationships. You'll be able to grow in your finances. You'll be able to succeed when you make it your life mission to be constantly growing. To become a person of value, you've got to add value to yourself. You know, you may have heard the quote before, when the purpose of something isn't understood, the abuse of it is inevitable. When the purpose of something is not understood, the abuse of it is inevitable. This tells us that many times in life we abuse, or let's use the term mishandle things, because we don't understand the purpose of it. We do this to each other, we do this to society, and we do this to ourselves. When you really understand the power that a person of value has to transform your world, to literally be a catalyst of change to the world around you. When you discover your purpose, you will begin to handle yourself in a different way. When you begin to see yourself as a person of value, when you begin to see yourself as someone who has something to offer, you will handle yourself different, you'll handle your time different, you'll handle your resources differently. What is one of the most important aspects of becoming a person of value? That's to become a trustworthy person, to become an integral person, a person of character. Did you know in the last decade or so, all over the world, there's been a shift, especially in North America in the area of business, back to integrity, values, and character. People want to do business with people they trust. People want to work with people out of relationship. There's a tremendous revert back to, as it used to be, you'd agree on a handshake. That was the contract. You could take somebody at their word. That's really who people want to have relationship with and who people want to do business with. People in general, especially in the business community, I've been hearing as of late, are looking more to be somebody of significance rather than just be a success. Oftentimes we major on, I've had success in this, or I'm working to achieve success. I want to challenge the leaders that are in the conference today and those that are gathered there to seek intentionally ways to make your life of significance rather than just success. Why live 30, 40 years and say, you know what, I was successful in the following areas, but I haven't left a legacy. I haven't invested in others. My life after I die doesn't really matter and won't live on. Those who are wise are those who build their life in such a way that they will keep on speaking long after they're gone. Whether that means they start a charitable organization, whether that means they write books, whether that means they create video series. The goal of yourself should be to so invest yourself in your generation that if you get sick, if you die, that you're leaving an inheritance for your generation and the generations to come. To me, this is real significance. This is what people actually want. You know, in today's day and age, people value character and integrity. I want you to take those two terms and never forget them: character and integrity. Integrity actually comes from, it's where we get the word integer, meaning one way of living. You are who you are publicly, who you are behind closed doors. This will significantly add value to the people around you and to your life. When you make character and integrity of foremost importance, when people can feel they can trust you, they'll want to work with you, they'll want to help you, and doors will open up. In fact, whole cities, nations, organizations actually thrive based on the character and integrity of their leadership. This is a reality. So I want to just mention a couple aspects of what makes for success, or we could say significance. It's not just character and integrity, but there was a study done recently where they developed what they called the 3 factors of success. That is to say that if anybody were to cultivate these 3 factors in any vocation, anywhere, they could have significant success. The 3 factors were as follows, and I'm going to connect this to character and integrity this morning because our first point in how to add value to any sphere is how to become a person of value yourself. So the study decided that 3 factors were necessary for success in any sphere. Number 1 was knowledge. Knowledge. But not just any knowledge, not just something maybe you have Googled or you heard from somewhere, but unusual knowledge that the mediocre mass, the general population, doesn't know. We're talking about knowledge that you have to pay the price for. Knowledge that you can only get upon the accumulation of study and learning over a period of time. I hope you caught that. That piece is very important there. Knowledge that you acquire through an accumulation of study over a period of time. This is the kind of knowledge that people only acquire when they make learning a lifestyle. Not just reading something or hearing something, but making learning a lifestyle. That's the kind of knowledge we're talking about. But this study said that even that kind of knowledge, even the unusual knowledge of how to do something, even though we know knowledge is power and all of that, that kind of knowledge only is 10% of success. So knowledge, the knowledge factor is 10% of success. The next factor that the study concluded on is the environment factor. The factor of environment. That is to say, what you choose to do with the environment that you have grown up in, or say you've grown up in a negative environment, how have you used that to leverage that pain, that difficulty into having success today. If you look at the common denominator between all successful and significant people, all history makers, they usually have had some unusual challenges and crises that they have had to overcome. In their overcoming of their challenging environment, they developed a sort of thick skin that allowed them to have endurance beyond the general public. The other aspect of the environment factor is whether you have the ability to create environment. For most people, environment creates them. For yourselves, as leaders and catalysts of change, do you have the ability to bring environment with you? Have you learned how to create a study atmosphere in your personal life so that when you go out into your calling, you go out into your career, you go out to do what you are supposed to do you bring that environment with you? Do you know how to create an environment or constraint or sort of personal prison that cultivates unusual development? Do you know how to control your schedule? Do you know how to manage your time in such a way that you have an environment of constant growth and consistent development? That's the power of the environment factor. And that's why this study actually rated environment as 50% of all success. That's what's so powerful, especially about coming to see my mentor here in Kiev, Ukraine, is that the environment does enough to me, even a few days here, that I go home inspired, fueled, equipped, and ready to continue. But the real power behind success is being able to cultivate that environment anywhere at any time. That's a great key for us today. And that's why this study said environment is 50% of all success. For the mathematicians out there, the remaining percentage is 40%. I'll save this one till last because we're talking about being a person of value. That 40% that is remaining, if you can believe it, and this is a secular study, it's not spiritual in nature, it is actually the character factor. Isn't that amazing that the character factor is actually crucial to success in any vocation? You may have heard the old phrase that, charisma or gifting will get you there, but character will keep you there. It's fascinating to know and to see how character has a fundamental importance in your ongoing success and legacy. Character is hugely important. A good example of this would be Tiger Woods, the famous golfer. Incredibly gifted individual. Tiger Woods, as you may know, was one of the best golfers in the world. Maybe they still hail him as such. And then he had a number of affairs that came out in the news, and different things were being said. And I'll never forget where I was. I was in an airport, and his game, he was playing just terribly over the last number of years. And I was watching the television, and he was actually throwing up on the side of the fairway. And he had incredible back pain, and all kinds of stuff was going on. And the woman who was hosting this TV show, the journalist, she said, Tiger's game has just not been the same since his personal life entered into, became shambles. The character factor is extremely important, not just in your own personal life, but in your public presentation. Character matters, and the world still somewhat has a respect for that. In fact, the president of Singapore and his leadership cabinet, he actually made the statement, if somebody is committing betrayal to the people closest to them, he will actually fire them, whether that's adultery or whatever it is. He will fire that individual because he said that if somebody will cheat the people closest to them, they will definitely cheat their government. Character matters. Becoming a person of value matters. This is actually what's going to take you to become a person of significance that leaves a legacy. I want to give you a few quotes here today, still on point number 1 of becoming a person of value yourself. People are born and people die, but a person of value leaves a legacy. People are born and people die, but a person of value leaves a legacy. Next quote. These both come from a television host that I have relationship with back in Canada, Dan Carter. He said, "Companies come and companies go, but a person of value is remembered." Companies come and companies go, but a person of value is remembered. You know, in talking about success versus significance, most of the time, as especially young leaders, we're thinking in terms of just success. But some of the older generation, the older dogs who have experienced success, whether it be financially or career or whatever, they're saying the real value to them at the end of their lives is they desire significance. So that's why I want to share this with you today and give you a few principles and comparisons between success and significance, so that you're aiming in the direction of legacy even at a young age. For myself, I created a History Makers Academy and a charitable organization called the History Makers Society that actually helps other people to not only discover their purpose, but to actually set up their own charitable organizations, their own projects in their communities that actually transform their communities. In this way, I'm somewhat able to live on even after I'm gone, helping others start programs that help other people. And we've had huge open doors through this. One example would be in the nation of Namibia. You know, as a Christian leader who I am, when we went to begin to do some work in Namibia for the purpose of societal transformation, we discovered that the Namibian government was actually blocking many evangelistic Christian ministries from coming into the country, because they said, you do crusades or you hold events, you take up large offerings, and you flee the country without paying taxes. So they felt that the minister who comes to the stage is gaining, and the people are being fleeced of their money. The government didn't get their taxes. And so what made History Maker Society so accepted in the country is they made the statement that you help Namibians to help Namibia. You train and equip Namibians to rebuild the nation of Namibia. That's what it looks like to add value. And when you're a person of value that adds value to others, there will be no shortage of doors that will open for you. You will not have a problem with influence. You will not have a problem with purpose when your goal is to become a person of significance rather than just success. You can hold a great crusade, make a lot of money or whatever your goal was and say that was successful, but that might not make you significant as far as your investment in this generation. This is also the reason I encourage people to write books and create curriculums and product. Because curriculums, books, materials can actually outlive you. That's the importance of that. So let's do a short comparison of success versus significance. Our time is almost completed. Here it is. Success can be fleeting. There is always another organization, a better product, or a younger person coming to take your place. Let me just say that part again. Success can be fleeting. There is always another organization, a better product, or a younger person coming up behind you to take your place. While significance impacts this generation and the generation to come. I want to encourage you to think in terms of building your projects or being a catalyst of something that outlives you. This is hugely important. Legacy is the terminology. Next comparison. Success mainly requires adding value to yourself, while significance requires adding value to others. It requires investing yourself in other people, and in that way you have real success, which is significance. So that again, success requires adding value to yourself, while significance requires adding value to others. Next comparison. Success can actually make you common if everyone in that sphere has it. What makes you different if everybody's rich around you and you are too? What makes you different if you're successful in this sphere and everyone around you is as well? Success can make you common if everyone has it, while significance will always make you stand out. A person of significance in any sphere will be respected and will stand out from among the crowd. Next comparison. A person can buy success, but you cannot buy significance. A person can actually buy success, but a person cannot buy significance. Significance is sort of the universal reward for those who are true and integral to themselves and to mankind. Next comparison. You can cheat your way to success, but you cannot cheat your way to significance. You know, in some places of the world, I think even in Ukraine, you can actually cheat and purchase your exams so that you didn't have to study, but you just buy your exam and you're awarded a grade. However, that doesn't mean you're going to add value and knowledge and skill to your culture. You can cheat your way to success, but you cannot cheat your way to significance. Next comparison. Success can happen overnight, while significance takes time and requires becoming a person of value. Success can happen overnight, while significance takes time and requires becoming a person of value. So point number one in really how to add value to any sphere is becoming a person of value yourself. Our second point and final point in today's lecture is to become a person of organized thinking and organized action. That's the second key to adding value to any sphere. In any sphere of life, any vocation, if you can be somebody that has organized thinking, which dictates organized action, you can have success. You can be a person of influence. You know, organization is so key. The world belongs to the disciplined and the world belongs to the organized. In fact, when you look at organized crime, why it's able to flourish in maybe a nation where laws prohibit sex trafficking or, you know, whatever that thing might be, laws prohibit the mafia activities, the police are against it, and people don't respect it. How does some crime flourish? Well, that's why it's called organized crime. It flourishes based upon its organization. Organization is important. I love to speak at various events and lectures on the topic of organizing good, organized good. The key for good to flourish, the key for even righteousness to flourish, is in its ability to be organized through organized people with an organized system of thinking. Benjamin Franklin actually would create various systems to produce certain results. Benjamin Franklin, a very, very famous man, history maker, he once said, "The man who has learned to manage himself is qualified to manage something else." The principle is this: you cannot organize your business, your program, your project until you learn to organize your own private life, until you understand how to adhere to a schedule, how to make the most of your day. Your own personal organization will spill over into the organization of something else. How can you expect to organize a country, to organize a city? You know, many don't know that former President Barack Obama was a community organizer prior to becoming President of the United States. And you find that with people who have incredible influence on culture, they are always people who are highly organized. Organization is key. This is actually the only way you're going to be able to take vision to execution. Many people have big ideas. Maybe some of you are sitting there in the hall right now and you've got a dream, you've got an idea, and you've told people about it and you boasted about it, but you have not yet taken it from vision to execution. Why? The gap between vision and execution is a big one, and it all comes down to your ability to have organized thinking. What is organized thinking? Organized thinking is the ability to take an original idea or inspiration to full fruition into a tangible product. Let me define organized thought this way. A mental image in which you can see the starting point, the finished goal, and the steps in between. That's called organized thought. The ability to see the beginning, this is where you need to begin based on that idea, the steps in between that will take you all the way to the goal. That's what organized thinking is. The ability to not just see something in your mind, in the invisible, imagining something, a dream, but to actually be able to translate every step of that system towards the goal and put it on paper. If it doesn't make it to paper, it doesn't exist. That's the rule of thumb. So there's an old proverb that I want to quote for you today that says this: the fallow ground of the poor would yield much food, but it is swept away by injustice. Let me say that again. The fallow ground of the poor would yield much food, but it is swept away by injustice. I want you to interchange the word injustice with disorganization now. Let me read it again with that in mind. The fallow ground of the poor would yield much food, but it is swept away by disorganization. The principle in this proverb, what it's exactly saying is that anybody, anywhere can produce a result. Anyone, anywhere can actually produce much fruitfulness, but it's going to come down to your ability to be organized. You look at certain nations of the world with incredible resources. The continent of Africa would be one that I'm sure you know of. How many resources on such a rich, awesome continent, yet the ability to become organized in such a way is what everything hinges on. There was a book recently that I read, not recently released, but by Jim Collins. The book is called From Good to Great. I definitely recommend that you read this book, From Good to Great. This book did a study on great companies, not just good companies, but great ones, the ones who were considered the exception. Walt Disney would be one of them. I think Coca-Cola was as well. And they did a study on what actually caused these organizations to flourish in time of economic crisis, in any demographic. What caused them to do so well? The study showed that these companies and organizations actually were able to gain momentum because of the following three factors. Number one, organized people. Number two, organized thought. And number three, organized actions. Organized people, organized thought, and organized actions. A little example of this is a study that was done in Harvard Business School. The study actually was the program, the MBA program, 1979. Students were actually asked, these graduates were asked, have you set clear written goals for your future and made any plans to achieve them? This is an important question that I'm asking of you this morning, especially as graduates or people in university or college. Have you set clear, written, organized goals for your future? This study by Mark McCormack was called What You Will Not Be Taught at Harvard Business School. What You Will Not Be Taught at Harvard Business School. During this study, they discovered that 84% of these business graduates had no specific goals at all. They graduated with grades, having done well, but no goals. 84%. That shows you that that's just how the general public behaves. Then, 13% of these Harvard graduates had a goal, but didn't write it down. 13% of these graduates had a goal, but it never made it to paper. It was never organized. 3%, only 3% of these graduates had written goals and plans, and they were written down in an organized way. It was organized thinking at its finest. They had their starting point, they had their goal, and they had the concrete steps in between. They wrote it down in an organized way. 10 years later, the results were shocking but very predictable. 13% of students who had goals, remember they had goals but they didn't write them down. Maybe some of you are like that this morning. 13% of students who had goals were earning on average twice as much than the 84% who had no goals at all. 13% of students who had goals, they didn't write it down though, were earning on average twice as much as the 84% who had no goals at all. We can probably predict that. But here's where it gets wild. 3%, the 3% students who had clear, organized steps, concrete steps written down on paper, were earning on average 10 times more than the whole 97% combined. That is a drastic difference. If you didn't catch that, 3% of students who wrote down their goals from step 1 to the end, steps in between, those 3% were earning on average 10 times more than the other 97% combined. This is the power of an organized mind and a disciplined individual. Organized thinking produces organized actions, which will make you a person of value anywhere you go. I'll leave you with a couple quotes. A man or nation without an organized system of thought will always be at the mercy of the man or nation that has one. A wise man once said, a man or nation without an organized system of thought will always be at the mercy of the man or nation that has one. Margaret Mead, I'm sure you know who she is, American anthropologist. She was responsible for the sexual revolution. She had a brilliant understanding of sociology. She said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. You know, it's not necessarily a club or even the government that changes the world per se or leaves a legacy always. It's not even the church. It's those individuals who have the ability to add value to themselves in such a way that they add value to others. And then it's those who are able to organize their lives and function in organized thinking, strategic thinking, who can map out a plan. This is what makes you valuable in any vocation, anywhere. So I challenge you, those of you who are at the conference today, to take from this and begin to apply it to your life. If you're not a typically organized person, learn to be one. There are leaders who are born and leaders who are learned leaders, they call them. There is no excuse for not becoming a person of value. Thank you for this time that we've had today. I wish you all the best of significance, not necessarily success. We'll see you next time. God bless you.